Our next guest is an Ethereum bull who argues that so-called Ethereum killers are all zombies now. Joining us to discuss is Ernst & Young principal and global innovation leader and CoinDesk contributor Paul Brody. Paul, so if you could just very quickly break down your thesis, I have a few questions about it, but if you could just sum up the argument that you are making in this article.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would not really characterize myself as an Ethereum bull so much as I am an Ethereum pragmatist. And the underlying thesis is this, which is that technology ecosystems tend to consolidate around kind of dominant networks. And in Ethereum meets a lot of the tests of the dominant network. It's not the perfect network, but it has been in place for a significant amount of time. It has the preponderance of developers, users, market activity, and it is being stewarded in what can only be described as a good enough capability direction. So it's not the most advanced blockchain, it's not got all the best features, but it's keeping up with the other things well enough that it's going to be extraordinarily difficult to displace. And the thesis is sort of based on experience with networking standards and operating system standards in prior tech ecosystems.
So, okay, so let's talk about this term Ethereum killers for a second. I've kind of noticed that term has gotten recently sort of out of vogue. We used to hear it a lot, and now I feel like the crypto industry is like, no, we're all, nobody's killing anybody. We're all friends. I don't know. I feel like people don't like using that term anymore. I noticed that the Ethereum killers that you list in the piece, I think you say it's Solana, Terra, and Avalanche, or three examples you give. I was actually a little surprised to see Terra. I don't see, well, Terra isn't killing anybody actually, but, but I would have thought Polygon would have been on there. But anyway, yeah, exactly, killing itself. But putting all that aside,
I would actually differentiate. I would very much differentiate between somebody like a Polygon that wants to build on top of Ethereum. Layer 2s and sidechains are not Ethereum killers. They're part of the Ethereum ecosystem, and it's actually the strength of the Ethereum ecosystem. Whereas if you go into look at like the Solanas or the Avalanches or Ripples or really any of the other sort of layer 1s, they're aiming to kill Ethereum to assume the dominant market position. And I just don't think that's going to happen, right? The merge kind of solidified everybody's view of that, especially in the business community. But the reality is that was true even quite some time before the merge. Ethereum really had a dominant and truly unassailable position. And if you go and look at the market share, it's really interesting. There's always challengers to Ethereum, but the number one challenger to Ethereum keeps changing. And none of them seem to be able to cross the threshold of more than about 10 to 15% market share before at some point imploding.
So, okay, so that's a good clarification. And in general, I don't think the term Ethereum killer is particularly useful. I mean, people in crypto are fighting amongst themselves enough. We don't need to propagate that. But I think this raises a larger question, which is okay, so even if the challengers keep changing, but you're still saying that the dominant one never really takes more than 10 to 15%, that seems like actually a really bad thing, in my opinion. Why do we want this one dominant monster? I mean, that sounds really Web 2. Yeah, 2.0-ish to me. I mean, why are we recreating that? I mean, do we want Google, Amazon? I mean, that's sort of what it sounds like a little bit. So why is this? This doesn't seem like a good scenario to me.
So I think you make a really good point, which is that in general, one of the things that we want with Web3 is an end to this golden age of digital monopolies. And I would say in a worst case scenario, this dominant Ethereum ecosystem position turns into something that looks like Web 2. In the best case scenario, it looks more like the internet. The internet is a monopoly, right? TCP IP is a monopoly. And if you were to go back 20 or 30 years, the internet was really just an inter-networking protocol, and there were lots and lots of different networks out there. Today, we're down to TCP IP. It's TCP IP everywhere, and that's the winner. But the internet itself is, although it is a monopoly, it's not a pernicious monopoly because it is a decentralized open access monopoly in the sense that everybody uses it, but no one controls it. That is the best case scenario for Ethereum. It is a public good, which is widely shared by everybody, but it's a public ecosystem in which the value created goes back to the participants who created it, and it's not just a kind of pernicious bad actor type of monopoly.
So, Paul, my little girl is obsessed with four things: princesses, unicorns, scary dragons, and zombies. And she wants to be a zombie. What's that? She wants to be Well, she wants to be a zombie for Halloween. Which coin should she be? Which network should she be for Halloween? What's the scariest network out there that you think is totally dead, just waiting to, besides Terra?
So I would go with your colleague, which is I don't love the name calling, right? It's not me who came up with the term Ethereum Killer. And, it's not me who wants to advocate for that. I would say, if you want to go with something harmless, you can go with Terra. I think one of the things that really disappoints me is I've seen people, and it's not just with Terra, but you see people all the time after like the network crashes or something terrible happens, like, oh, I was just assuming this Twitter personality for giggles, it was entertainment. It's not entertainment when people's money, their financial future is on the line. It deeply disappoints me to see that kind of an excuse after the fact.
Sobering words.
But besides
what
Terra,
do you think will happen?
Solana.
Oh, yeah.
Like who's the scariest one besides Terra?
So I'm not going to make that forecast because that'll just get me sucked into all kinds of hate and misery on Twitter.
What
I would say is this, which is if you look at the history of tech ecosystems, right, even after the winner is clearly visible, the losers take a long time to die away. And they kind of try all different kinds of strategies like, oh, we're going to be compatible with your system, but it's not going to be the same. It's like yours, but cheaper. They'll rebrand themselves as layer twos. It could go on for a decade. Some of these L1s have significant amounts of money, which they are throwing at product developers. So this period of time could go on for a long time, but we'll see ever increasing Ethereum ecosystem dominance, and the launch of the ZK EVMs at DevCon last week. That's a huge positive for Ethereum. It will drive a lot of scalability. It will move a lot of the real competitive action into the layer 2 ecosystem.
So you don't think that there will be a multi-chain world, but rather that Ethereum will eventually win out over the Polygon, the Solanas of the world?
I do not believe in the multi-chain future because of Metcalfe's law, right? Networks consolidate. The more participants, the more value you have in a network, the more dominant it becomes. But again, I would definitely separate between a Polygon and some of the others. If you're building on top of Ethereum at the layer 2, you're part of the ecosystem. If you're competing as an L1, it's an entirely different matter.
And Paul, we know that you're in London right now, so we did want to see if you have a quick comment on Prime Minister Liz Truss resigning and what impact that may have on the crypto industry there.
So I think the main thing is, everybody's talking about regulation, and I've mentioned this before. When we have clear, specific, positive rules, not just regulation by enforcement action, but positive rules about what you can do to be compliant, there will be an unlocking, a tidal wave of capital into the crypto ecosystem. London is one of the world's financial capitals. The sooner that the UK and the US have clear, positive market rules and legislation, the faster we unlock that kind of tidal wave of growth. So any delay in government leadership is also potentially a delay in getting to that desirable end state.